As I record this video, it is day 13 of the war in Ukraine. I want to start with the words of Ukrainian President Zelensky, who became a hero in the last 13 days. Here's what he said. There is no blood on our flag. There are no and will never be black spots on it. There are no and will never be any swastikas on it. The Ukrainian flag is the land, peaceful, fertile, golden, and without tanks. This is the sky, peaceful, clear, blue, and without missiles. So it was, and so it will be. As you know, my channel is dedicated to health, wellness, and beauty. We cannot have any of these things without peace in the world. The war is hitting too close to home. I was born in Kiev, Ukraine, and I stand with Ukraine. Going forward, in addition to my regular topics I cover, on this channel I will post videos and my feelings on this war in Ukraine. I feel very sad and devastated with what is going on, and it is important to me to express these feelings here on this channel. We got some great news finally today. The US is going to discontinue purchasing oil from Russia. Some of you may not know, but we purchase a lot of oil from Russia, and we have been purchasing up until today. And all the money that we purchase the oil with go towards the war in Ukraine. Unbelievable that it took so long to take this step. Second good news, but also late, is that Poland is going to give Ukraine fighter jets. Ukraine cities have been shelled and bombed with rockets and missiles by Russians, killing innocent civilians. Ukraine needs those jets to close the skies over Ukraine. My feeling is that with the way things are going, the war will be over in no time. At least I hope so. Now that Ukraine have those fighter jets. In the last couple of days, very scary things happened that could have devastated not just Ukraine, but also the whole Europe and even maybe the whole world. Russian troops have occupied Europe's largest nuclear power plant, called Zaporozhye nuclear plant. No country besides Russia has ever fired upon an atomic power plant's reactors. The first time in history, and these are the words of the Ukrainian president Vladimir Zelensky. It was a close call. How dangerous was the attack? If the plant were to blow up, it would have been 10 times larger than Chernobyl. I know firsthand about Chernobyl accident. I was a child living in Kiev, 150 kilometers away from Chernobyl when the accident occurred. It was a nuclear disaster in April 1986. If you do not have a feel for what happened then, you should watch the HBO miniseries called Chernobyl. If it is scary to watch, you can only imagine how scary it was to live through it. Can you imagine the tragedy 10 times larger than Chernobyl? I can't. It would be a nuclear disaster for the whole world and not just for the European continent. Ukraine and Russia had the second round of talks last Thursday. During those talks, there was an agreement about humanitarian corridors for civilians to leave, to evacuate women, children, old and sick people from the war zones. One such zone is called Mariupol. A few days ago, I was listening to the interview with the mayor of Mariupol. Mariupol has been blockaded for days with Russian troops. The town doesn't have water, electricity and food. It is under constant shelling, and there are hundreds of dead and thousands of wounded civilians.
Нет, иди сюда. Там прошли, здесь прошли. Все пролетело. Мама что? Все. Заходите. Заходите.
Все нормально, все хорошо.
Продолжаем работать без электроэнергии, воды и тепла. Есть нюансы небольшие с обеспечением, а именно не хватает сейчас анальгетиков. В общем, вот так. Находимся уже на рабочем месте уже более недели, кто-то еще больше, так что вот так вот. Продолжаем работать. Все на своих рабочих местах.
Last Thursday, the city officials were preparing to evacuate their civilians, but Russians didn't stop shelling. Originally, there were 50 buses ready to take people out of danger. Russians found the place where the buses were hidden and bombed them. After that, only 30 buses remained. They were hidden in a different place, and that place was also bombed, leaving very few buses operational. In a different place, the humanitarian corridor was mined. People could not escape as a result, and some died. In the meantime, Russia cracks down on media in Russia, including Facebook, Twitter, and BBC. According to Moscow, these outlets spread fake news. The propaganda in Russia minimizes the current war by calling it a special operation to free Ukrainians from oppression and to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. I heard some of my American friends do not understand what that means. It means that Russia says that Ukraine is led by Nazis and that ethnically Russian people are being killed by Ukrainians. There are videos on YouTube where bloggers are asking Russian people on the street on their view on Ukrainian war. People do not believe that Kyiv is being bombed. They support Putin and support the special operation to free people of Ukraine. This is such an absurdity that anyone who visited Ukraine ever recently would know that this is not true. But large percentage of Russian population believes these lies, and it is so scary that people can be manipulated like that. People of Ukraine show every day that they do not want to be freed. They are free. They chose their government and their direction through a democratic process. They are strong. They will fight and they will win. The question is, how long will it last? How many people will need to die before this is over? And how Western countries can help. Ukraine's State Emergency Service has said that more than 2,000 civilians have died as of now. By the time this video is released, the numbers will grow. Included in those civilians are children. According to the UN Child Rights Committee, at least 19 children were killed and 31 injured. I will post a link to the Newsweek article in the description about a Ukrainian 5-year-old boy called Semyon dying in the hospital after his 10-year-old sister and parents were shot dead by Russians. His 13-year-old sister remains in critical condition. For those who shot at them, were they thinking that these people are Nazis? What will it take for this to stop? Ukraine really needs a no-fly zone. Everyone is scared of the escalation of this. But it is clear that if Ukraine falls, the next will be other countries. Putin will not stop with Ukraine. There was a NATO meeting last week on this specific question of no-fly zone. According to the NATO, no-fly zone over Ukraine would potentially bring NATO into open conflict with Russia. However, Pentagon officials say that allowing Russia to launch indiscriminate attacks also poses the risk of an escalating conflict. I have a feeling there will be a point of no choice. The no-fly zone will be established. We are in a very dangerous point in history, and any miscalculation on any country's part can end up in a World War III conflict. My hope is that the light will win over the darkness, and this happens soon. There is way too much pain inflicted on people of Ukraine. They do not deserve any of it, and I'm sure that the stories of their bravery and strength will be told to the generations to come. Their president is already a legend. He was a comedian turned president who was put in a very difficult situation, and he delivered big time. Slava Ukraini!